Sony has announced 5 new TV models at CES 2020, but unfortunately, I only get to show you 2 of them. Hey everybody, Caleb Dennison for Digital Trends, and Sony is bringing new TVs to CES, but in what seems to be a recurring theme, we're only actually seeing a couple of them here on the show floor, which is bustling with press at the moment. Let's start with the new Z8H. So this is Sony's new 2020 8K television. We see a 75-inch and an 85-inch model here, and it's very similar to what we saw last year in terms of internals. So we're still looking at the X1 Ultimate processor, very important, as you know, especially for upscaling 4K to 8K, but also for managing the color, noise reduction, that sort of thing. They are not dishing out information like peak brightness levels, how many zones, but it is a full array backlit TV, of course, not edge lit. What is new, two notable things that are new for this particular series. One is they're using their new sort of localized audio technology in a slightly different way than we've seen before. So in the back of the TV, right along the bezel area, are some high frequency drivers, or I guess you could call them tweeters, and they actually use the frame of the TV to dissipate some of that sound. So there is some resonance happening with the frame of the television in order to kind of control high frequency response. Now, those high frequencies or treble are very directional. It's easy for the human ear to pick up on where they're coming from. And so they're using this to kind of localize sounds on the screen. Now, to be clear, it's not like the acoustic surface technology that we'll talk about with the OLED TV in just a moment, but they are trying to approximate that a little bit. Also, during the setup phase of this TV, there's an audio calibration mechanism that's new for this year that kind of reads the room and optimizes the audio for whatever space the TV is presented in. Last thing I want to mention is they are keeping this new style of stand. You see sort of a T-leg at the bottom. They're managing it so that it can be moved in towards the center, so if you don't have a gigantic entertainment console and can't manage such a wide stance, I mean, we are talking about 75 and 85-inch TVs here, you can move those in a little bit and have a more centralized stand. I think it looks better this way, but practically speaking, for some people, I think it's going to be important that you can move those legs in. Next up is the new A8H OLED, new for 2020, and we're not seeing a ton of new stuff integrated into this TV. The design is a little bit different. The stand is a little bit different. Still ultra slim, of course, very minimal bezels. The one thing that they are touting for this TV is a new X-Motion Clarity engine for the OLED series. That wasn't in there before. They've added it in. I do like X-Motion Clarity insofar as you can customize it so you don't get a whole lot of soap opera effect, but for sports it's particularly useful because it really cleans things up and makes fast motion sports not blurry. Otherwise, X1 Ultimate processor, all the stuff that we saw last year, not a ton of new stuff happening with the A8 OLED itself. Now, it's a slightly different story with the A9S. I don't know why they're diverging from their naming convention and going with S instead of H, but they did announce an A9S. It's not here on the show floor. Not exactly sure why. But the thing about the A9S is that they've added a smaller model. There is a 48-inch model, and if you've been following along, you know that LG has also offered that. No surprise there because Sony uses LG's OLED panels in their television. So the idea there is they're bringing the OLED down to a slightly smaller size. They're putting a more centralized aluminum stand on that particular TV, so you know, I could see using that as a gaming monitor. That's definitely how LG is positioning theirs. Sony's probably just sticking to the cinematic aspect, but with a smaller screen size. That's a great idea. Next is the X950H, back to the H naming convention. That's going to be the more standard 4K LED TV from Sony. Not a whole lot has been discussed there, although we do know that it's going to offer some of the same sort of acoustic location technology that we talked about with the 8K series. Also the ambient room mode setting where it sort of calibrates the sound for the room, and then there will be an X900H. So kind of follows what we have seen in the prior years with a few updates coming along. In general, it's not super revolutionary, I think some of the sound treatments are interesting, but the core technology, that X1 Ultimate processor and the screens that are in these TVs seem to be remaining the same. And honestly, that's just fine by me because Sony produced some amazing televisions last year. I'm really interested to get that 8K series in our office and test them out in our lab. I want to see how they perform. The Z9G is still a thing that Sony is selling. They're not replacing that. So we'll see how the Z8H fits into the picture. And of course, the A8 H Oled is also looking very good. That's all of Sony's new TVs, at least what we can see of them, right here at CES 2020.